Hi. Do you have exactly $900 to spend in a DAC? And you think that the topping D90 at like 7 or 8, depending on if you get MQA, is just not worth it? Introducing the AUNE S8, the 768K DSD 512 DAC that features FPGA and only FPGA. Only FPGA! Anyway, Linsol sent this out. And my desk setup is as follows. USB into this from this laptop. Optical from my normal computer into it. We've also got two outputs being used. We've got the RCA outputs going to these Swan D1090 speakers, because I want to know how well it translates to that, even though these are using a massive DSP, which means they're taking any analog signal I feed them, converting it from analog to digital, then DSP touching, and then back to, obviously, analog. And then we have XLR feeding into the topping A90, which is like my benchmark amp at this moment in time. Good. Oh, did I also mention the topping D90 is also feeding into this, so I could do this, right? If I'm playing the same song at the exact same time, I can just switch this switch, and I've adjusted the volume on that to 0, and the volume down on this to 110, and I can do that, and the music, which is Korn, Love Song, which probably isn't the best thing to judge between two DACs, but it's very hard to pick them apart. Everyone knows the topping D90 is pretty much top tier. So to say, hey, what about AUNE? It had better do some stuff. And I don't know if it does that stuff, but it is certainly prettier. Here's what the A90 looks like. They stack with the topping D90. And then, you know, there's Hestia, I think that's Hestia, I think, but it's hard to judge. But there's a size difference. This is nice and warm, and this has been on all night and is nice and cool. So that sort of throws you off, because when you deal with a DAC, people don't know this, and I repeat it a lot of time. There is still an amp in a DAC. Not I'm talking about like a headphone amp, not something to push current, but you're taking the digital signal from whatever form it is, optical, fiber optic, this has AES2 and coax, all of them. You're taking that and you are converting it from digital to analog, but it's very small, and you need to amplify it up to then have, I think these should be 4 volts, and these are 2 volts. That's what XLR is, higher voltage than the RCA, but you still need to amplify it to get it into an analog form, so you need an analog amplifier inside every DAC to then push it out. And then it gets re-amplified and a lot more gusto put behind it for headphone amps and speaker amps, things like that. So when one DAC, that's $700, isn't warm at all, and when the other DAC, which is $900, is warm, means you have a change in the actual circuitry, the design characteristics of it. So a lot of times, the reason audiophiles, and I'm talking about the Maxell hair being blown in the wind audiophiles, will tell you to buy like a $5,000 DAC, is not because the DAC chip, which can all be shared between one and the other, it's because the implementation, how good that little amplifier is. The amplifier that goes from real tiny to like 2 to 4 volts, how good that is. So that's not something they could just take out and you can buy it separately. That has to be built into the DAC. You'd have to have a DAC transport to then put it in. It'd be real complicated. So, how does it sound, Zeos? The AUNE X8 Magic DAC. I love my little AUNE X8 Magic DAC. However, the Magic DAC has certain things about it that are just unique in the world of DACs. Like I was just talking about the amplifiers. Well, you can change op amps out on amplifiers, and this DAC has an op amp you could swap out, which changes the way the amplifier functions and changes the characteristics of it. And I love the X8 Magic DAC because I can turn that into a flavor, so to speak. DACs can either be just dead straight, go, or, like in the case of the AUNE X8 Magic DAC, some sort of magical flavor. And that has very simple controls. You can switch between 3 inputs. It has the filter settings. It outputs only RCA, or it has a pre-out, which you can adjust with that. The nice thick knob, and you're good. Now this, the S8, is FPGA, which stands for Field Programmable Gate Array. Did I get it right? Did I just learn that? I'm the best. And they are very, very braggartish. If we go to the actual, here's the thing. So $900, not currently on Linsol. Linsol sent it out. They're getting their page set up. So this is pre-actual availability. And they love to talk about this. Where is it? Titan Labs. Discard. You can completely discard any ASRC inside the DAC chip and present music more vividly. So with authentic femtosecond clock reproduction. ASRC is the DAC chip has a built-in way of decoding things, and an FPGA, which is basically just like a little computer in there that they own programs to deal with it, will take over. Now on that unit there, the DeArt Aquila 2, the Yulong DeArt Aquila 2, you actually have an option to pick between synchronous and asynchronous, and it'll either pick through the FPGA or not. And I really enjoy the option to choose either one, because sometimes I don't actually like the way whatever source I'm listening to, or whatever source or, you know, amp, speaker, headphone combo, I don't like it as much on the FPGA side as I do as ASRC, and it's at least an option. That's why I love the Aquila 2. This is like, fuck you, FPGA, and that's it. Go home, which is that is doing as well, but that gives you the op amps to fiddle with, to just cradle. So, I mean, that's not a huge deal. Most DACs don't give you the option. I'm just pointing out that that one does, and that one has op amps. And this, at 900, has very little you can tweak. Very little. It does come with a remote. You can, like, set this up in a living room or something. However, there are some issues with this thing. And they're not sound issues. This thing sounds glorious. I'm gonna put just glorious. If I did editing of videos right now, I would look up and the word glorious would appear like a giant bold text. I'm not gonna actually do it, but you're all imagining the word glorious and some B-roll as it went by the front. I'm so glad I don't have to do that shit. It's a giant silver box, and I'll have to pick it up and manipulate it a little bit because it is a little bit heavy. It looks like a $900 DAC. Let's put it that way. Because AUNE has a very specific, they like to make their cases look unique. And this has a curved top, and there's a curve under here that looks like a smiley face. And then the sides are not straight, the sides are tilted in, and this material, it just feels like you don't, like this is like, but if I did that, they go a lot into the actual touch. 4 buttons in front. Power and input is on the right. That's easy, right? Okay, good. Power on the front. I would point out power on the front. Shit. And then the left is left and right, and then filter or line out switch. Now, obviously, you could change between optical. All right. It's optical, IIS, USB, AES, coaxial, and back to optical. No Bluetooth. That has Bluetooth. It has other things going for it. That one, the topping D90, you can switch between the XLR and the RCA out. Not on this. This lacks a lot of the features I've come to expect from this sort of price range. And then it also has some issues. So if you want to change the filter, you just press this button once. Filter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put my headphones up a little bit. This center button, again, changes filters. Or if you hold it, line out, hold it, pre-out. So now I can adjust the volume here. And the volume goes from 0 to 120. However, with the buttons on the front of this unit, if I want to go down, like you hit down. And you hit and hold it down, and nothing happens. If you're at 120 or 119 and you want to go down to 75 volume, you are pressing this button every single fucking time. And trust me, I've tried just hold it, just hold it, just hold it, nothing happens. And then if you want to switch between variable volume and line out, you hold the center button and it clicks up. So now I'm using an external amplifier, I would want line out. But if I'm using speakers, if these weren't, had their own remote control, you would be using, say, a power amp to this, and then you would, at least to give you that press and hold before it swaps over. I like it when it's like a two-stage operation, so it's a little bit safer, because when you're using this as a volume control to whatever you're using it to, you really don't want the ability to go from variable volume, where you might have it real low, to maximum. And on the front of the unit, they do that with a long press. Let's look at the remote. Power, FAVO, input select, filter select, choose between line out and a pre-out. So that's the one we were just talking about. Volume up, volume down, up, down, left, right, play, pause, mode, menu, stop, return. I actually have another AUNE unit over there. That's their media player that you plug your SD cards in or external hard drives into, and you can use this remote. It's the same exact remote. So on this remote, which is for this unit, power works. You can turn the unit off, turn the unit on. It's instant. There's a main power bus switch in the back. We're not touching that. Power in the front. FAVO does nothing. Going from the bottom, nothing, 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 nothing. These four do nothing. Up, down, left, right, play, pause. Does nothing. Okay, so that means we only have power and these 5 controls. Now I'm on line out, which is full line out. If I want to switch to be able to use the volume control, I have to hit this middle button. Now on the unit itself, I have to hold that button down, and then it switches. And then I can control the volume 85, 84. I can hold the volume and it'll go down 70, 60, 50. That's normal. I expected that out of the front buttons. It doesn't happen. So at least with the remote, it does that. However, and I'm going to yell a little bit now, and I love the way this sounds, and I love AUNE as a company, but this middle button that goes between, let's see, what do we got playing? What are we on? Optical, her, Bach. Let's get out of Bach. Let's get out of that. So there's something a little more, yeah, there we go. So right now, the output volume of this is 45. So I've turned my volume up on this so that my headphones can be audible. And where if I switch this button here, it'll switch to line out and be very loud. But I have to hold it. On this, there's no wait. That is an instant blow your shit up button. I'm sorry, AUNE. You did bad. You did bad. Because at least on the unit, I have to go and physically hold it to do that. It's at least a little bit layer of security. But the whole point of having this thing be a preamp out to like a power amp or something, you know, you'd set up your Crown 2502, 700 watt per channel. You'd slap this on top of it. You'd set it up with XLR down. You'd hook up an amazing set of boot cart speakers to it. You'd adjust the settings in the front of the amp. You'd adjust the volume of this. You get it perfectly matched and balanced. You'd control the volume with the remote, which is nice and easy, and I love the shape of it too. But then if you slip and your finger goes there, right off the face of the earth, you'll just blow whatever if you don't have it set in a safety manner where it's like this, the power amps are turned down and this has been at 120 and you know exactly how loud could get, and even if you fuck up, it won't blow it up, which is what I recommend you do. That does not belong there. If I'm using this in a living room, I'm literally getting super glue or a knife and I'm cutting this button out. Cutting it right the fuck, just pry it the fuck out of the unit. If I want to swap it, I'll go over here and I'll physically hold the button down on the unit. I could never hook this up in my living room to test speakers. I've got those Emotiva HC1 monoblocks, which are true power amps. No volume control at all. They just say, feed us signal and we'll power things. And I would fucking love to take the amazing sound that this produces, because it does produce amazing sound. Like I'm basically, if they're like, hey, just hold on to it, this is gonna end up somewhere in my system here, possibly in the Rebel amp. But if I put this to those HC1s and I set up whatever speakers, I got those new Elec debut reference, and I'm just playing with the volume, and I'm like, hey, this sounds really good. And I'm at 50, because you have to be as far down as the amplifiers will allow, and this accidentally gets pressed, you'll blow everything up. So that is the fault of the design of the remote control. Like, it should have to hold, at least if you had to hold this down, and I'd still complain about that, because that's not enough. This should not even be available on the remote. There's no reason why you'd want to remotely be able to switch on and off the volume control to go from free to pre to line out. No reason. But that, luckily, is the only concern. If you're looking at this for like, okay, I have a desktop setup Xeos, I want, for some reason, to spend $1,000 on a DAC and it's not an Army ADI2. I don't know, maybe you're one of those people. But I want it to also be beautiful, and I want it to sound creamy. This is one of those DACs that you cream from. In fact, I've had it set up for quite a while on my desk. I've been using one of the SoundDry stands under it, and then I put the A90 on top, which there are cheap revisions of this on Amazon if you look for them. But it's one of those DACs that you get in your life, and you kind of look at it and go, oh, I'm going to use this every day. This is not one of the ones that stays in a pile on the corner. Xeos gets so much stuff, and it ends up just piled up on the floor. I'll get to it. And then once I'm done with the review, it's like, all right, pat this back in the box to go away. No. I would love to, if I just pry this button, if they're like, keep it, I might just pry, literally with my fucking scalpel, this button out of this remote control. Because once that's gone, and you don't have the ability to fuck up, the unit is basically absolutely 100% worth it. So here's our filter settings, by the way. If you don't know what filter settings do, because they're on everything. And they're on everything for no fucking reason. If you are a person who has heard the differences between filters in a DAC, please comment below. Because what I've understood from much research and yelling is that over 20,000 hertz, the filter adjusts whether it goes up or straight or down or fast down. It's like, okay, why does that matter? Because I'm human. When I was 4 and maybe had the ability to hear over 20,000 hertz, maybe that would have mattered to me if I could have afforded a $900 DAC, although these do exist on cheaper things. I think the SU8 has things. A lot of cheaper DACs have the filter settings, and people think it's affecting the entirety of the spectrum. It is not. You have to be able to hear over 20K into like the 23, 24 range in order for the filter settings to even show up on your hearing. Am I wrong? Please correct me. This channel is an imperfect channel. I don't know everything. I just know what I've read, what people have told me, and I try to verify it, and then I build my own opinions of it, and then I spit it out every goddamn day. So, am I wrong about the filter settings? And if I am wrong, please correct me. And if you have played with the filter settings and heard anything different, please tell me what DAC, what amp, what headphones, what music source, because I just can't. There's no point. This is a button that does not need to exist on the remote either. I could pry that one out. Set it's filter. It's FIR 0 through 6. A little bit underutilized screen. Again, I'll point at the Dayart Aquila 2. I really liked the way that looked. It had a lot of information on the screen. It's lacking a VU. All these screens and DACs, I don't know why they don't have a digital VU just to show you the signal coming in and give you something to look at. Why do all these screens have to be like that's a nice size screen? It could show me a lot of information. You know what it shows me? Jack shit. Here, 1, 2, there's USB. That'll switch over from PCM44 to PCM384. There is also, I will say this, I was doing some sound demos with this unit. This and this. Because if you have it, why not? And when I usually do my headphone demos, it does the left, right, which are 1 second long clips or even shorter than that. And I had to add another set because if it's switching between bit rates, like if I had a 96K track in the sound demo, there is a 1.5 to 2 second delay before it actually starts bringing sound back into it. Because this will go, wait, click, okay, here's your music now. So I don't want to call that out as a bad thing. Like if you're just watching, if you are listening to an album and it's a higher bit rate, for 1.5 seconds it's going to take to switch over whatever magic it's doing on the inside of this, and then it'll be back to normal. So, I mean, let's try to look at the back of this if I have the space. That's gonna come out. You're heavy. You're good. Oh God. Oh God. Everything's ruined. I've ruined it all. Everything's ruined, everyone. Power switch, which you don't need to use as a front one. Hey, shit, know how you suck? Yeah, you do, because there's a power switch in the back here, but there's one in the front, so fuck you. USB, IIS, I saw the cap on the coaxial input. Here's the optical from my computer. There we go. AES in, which is for, you know, high-end digital mixing boards, things like that. And then you have your left and right outs and your RCA outs. And by the way, they're labeled upside down on top, so they're on the bottom and the top. So when you're looking over the top of it, just like the X8 Magic DAC, that alone is worth me being a fucking AUNE fanboy or ON fanboy, whatever the hell you want to pronounce it, because I don't care. I've never literally heard anyone from the company speak, so unless the president of the company tells me different, it's just AUNE. AUNE. ON would be spelled O-N. And if it was O-N-E, it'd be one. Don't correct me. Quality control pass. It's a solidly clean, beautiful unit. It's got those few little things I pointed out I have to yell about, because you need to know that that is a dangerous fucking fuck up. Like, everything else is great. When you can control the volume, it's smooth and it's correct speed, and the output, I mean, if I switch from, let's see, if these are unplugged, if I unplug that or turn this down, and that's USB, which is playing that, and then if I unmute this, because I've had it muted, great. Great, the song fucking ends right there. Oh, we have the volume control. Here we go. So I could either... this is too slow. Boom! Oh, no, let's put the volume control back on. Boom, boom, ba, 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 ba. That's epic score. Forced entry. So, I mean, if it's AUNE has always lacked features. I want to lower this. This is a perfect Konosuba music. It's... Kazuma, lower the volume. It feels like this could be easily fixed in an update. This could easily be fixed. If they're watching this video, hi everyone at AUNE, I love you guys. You amazing sounding. It's so warm, and it's, oh, I can smell the audio quality built into it. It's just that you need to update your firmware so that I can hold the button down to adjust the volume, so that this remote control button doesn't just switch that shit. In fact, if you could just disable it entirely, that'd be great, because it shouldn't be on the remote. And, I don't know, I had some VU meters to the front for shits and giggles. I probably can't do that, but I would love to see something. And that's a vanity thing. That's a straight, it's either a vanity thing or an information thing. I mean, I added a VU meter to my fucking 0.1 subwoofer, because I don't know when it's being used versus the subwoofers in the front of my room. So I had to add one so I could visually identify, wow, that was really great, massive low end. Oh, that didn't even move my 0.1. That was my front subs talking. And then I peek over there and it's doing, wah! So, okay, that's the 0.1 sub doing that. It's visual information is important. And honestly, even if it makes no audible difference, brains are fucking weird. You show something flashing and moving with the music and it's actually giving you like raw data. Like it actually is like the views here is like telling me what exactly, if we're under 0. Your brain pays more attention to the music when you can actually add sight to the sound. That's why beautiful things tend to sound better. that is a legit thing, and I could write a dissertation on it. If I took the world's best sounding, you know, system, DAC amp, whatever, and I threw it into like an old metal box, it was all beat up, and it had like a really ugly button on it, and then just had it so you plugged in the headphone on the front, you'd be like, and then I compared it against the most beautiful machined wooden, you know, machined wood, but whatever, you know, you understand the difference. So I put those two things next to each other with identical guts, and you ask people which one sounds better, the pretty one will almost always sound better. Unless you're one of those weird sociopaths who only likes ugly things, in which case the other one might sound better. But that's it. Let me plug in the Sundaras now. You know why? Because I get to. I'm gonna switch this back. I'm gonna switch you to something else because you're off. Oh, here's your remote. Power you down. Power you down. We're going to get to these swans, and they're going to have other problems with their remote and build quality and that LED that keeps fucking failing. Nothing is perfect, but I'm willing to overlook certain problems in a product if I think the overall benefit of it existing is there. Like, this is absolutely worth considering, regardless of the fact that, you know, the front, this button is instant death and you can't adjust the volume. But if you're just looking for like raw, sympathetic DAC sounds, I find myself enjoying the A90 more on this than I do on the D90, which has, that is completely me. I feel, because I can't hear the difference. I literally can switch to switch. But I feel like this one is doing more better. And that's the that is the detriment of every audiophile from the dawn of fucking time. We are an XLR, so we are using this. Marilyn Manson or Bach. Or Marilyn Manson or Bach. This is top tier headphone. This is, the A90 is my, like, the crowning jewel amp in existence right now. Right now. I don't know where it'll be in 3 months. How old is this video you're watching? All right. This is early July. I'm filming this. So if it's late July you're watching it, who knows? It could be like a giant AUNE amp that is just better than this now. But that balanced Sundara, this is, my farts no longer smell. They're bottling it and selling it in France. That's how this audio setup makes me feel. Like, my heart hurts how good this sounds. And is it responsibility of this to do that? Possibly. I feel like this sounds better than I just had the stack of the D90. And that's a big fucking fuck up from every human being, because we're not oscilloscopes. And it's part of my bias for having AUNE be the first company that ever sent me anything. AUNE didn't send me this. Linsol sent me this. But I had this thing because AUNE sent me that X1S. That was the first item they ever sent to anybody who was a reviewer, was that DAC amp. And when I sell that DAC amp at some point in the future at a yard sale, you bet your ass it's gonna mean something, or I might never sell it. Just frame that fucking thing. It's been running on my desk for 6 years. So I have a bias. I absolutely run a bias. That's because human. Hi. If someone tells you they're not biased, they're fucking lying to you. What they need to tell you is that they are biased and why they're biased. So I try to do that. There's something about AUNE and the way they build their shit and the way they tune their shit and just the weird, stupid, quirky features, and I love them. And I love this. And if I swear to God, if I could keep this thing, I'm gonna jank the fuck out of this remote until I can't switch that button anymore, and I'm gonna use this in some sort of stereo setup, like actual giant speakers. Because this is and you know what it is? It's like $900 and that's expensive. But when you hang out with like DMS and the Abyss guys and they're like, here's our $30,000 stack of equipment, that makes me sick in a different type of way. This makes me sick like butterflies. That makes me sick like, holy fuck, nobody needs this. And I've worked my way up to like expecting like $1,000 DAC to have this like effect over me. But that I can't wrap my head around like 30 grand in equipment to play headphones. It ain't that important to me. It ain't. It honestly ain't. But sitting here right now with this and these and her, bliss. Oh, and as far as difference between fiber optic and USB, because I was switching back and forth, it's not that hard. I really, if it's there, it's so minute I can't tell. It's so minute I can't tell. Whatever this DAC would be doing, it do real well, and it's doing it for every input. Oh my God. This is the sucky part where this review has to end, because now I have no excuse to sit here and do this because I got to move on to something else. But I'm just like, you know what? Maybe I need to really listen to Celebration of the Lizard and Experiment Work in Progress from the Waiting for the Sun Perception Remaster. Jesus shit. Yeah, no, this would absolutely be the benchmark setup that I would bring somewhere. I'd let the D90 stay here. I'd pop this fucker in the backseat of my car with this on top of it. Here you go. Audiophilia in 3 components. So that's it. I don't know what I've warned you about the fuck ups this has. I think they're fixable through firmware. Hopefully they haven't, pushed 1 million of these into stock shelves, or they could just give you firmware, I think. I mean, it's got USB hookup. You should be able to USB and then install a thing that, if it even allows that. And I would love to see that on whatever you want to be called. Oh, I didn't hook up to the T60R guns. They are here, however. The T60R guns are here, and they're not M3 Mark III R guns. Just know that before you consider grabbing them. There's a different sound coming out of those. The D1090s will get. Oh look, the LED works again. It blinks bright red instead of dim. That wallpaper, which is definitely not distracting anybody throughout this entire video, is available in the description. All wallpapers available on the Patreon and subscribe side that support this channel, so that when companies send me shit, I could just gouge the remote controls apart and say, fuck you. Unless they don't send me shit. And then I just buy it, like the big Elex speakers, and what else did I buy? I bought some other things. Headphones, this damn M1 STs. That was a mild waste of money. So anyway, $5 a month gets you into yard sales, ask me questions on platform, and see these reviews early. Hi. That's what the $5 tier does. You know what the yard sales are? When I get something from companies like this or things over here, and I just can't think of a use for them in the future, I will just throw them in the yard sale. $0 bidding start, blind and silent auction. If you win, you win. I ship for free, continental United States, half shipping international. Above all that is the $10 tier, the $10 Telegram tier, which is available for either Subscribestar or Patreon. Both work, same benefits. And that gets you behind the scenes access. If you want to know about this, like the day it arrives, like usually show them what arrived that day. They could ask me, hey, how does that sound? I say I haven't hooked it up yet. Like they are in this channel, like deep in this channel. If they're like, hey, that wallpaper, give it to me now, they get it. So there's that. Hi-Fi Guides and the Hi-Fi Guide forums are up and running and off to a great start. I'm gonna end this right now, and I'm gonna go to live stream. I'm gonna live stream some VR Alex, because it's gonna be a while until I can VR again. Man, moving's a bitch. All right, that's it. I'm Zeos. I'll be back tomorrow for another review. Something else probably on the table. Maybe just pick that up and start reviewing that, because that's what my job's like. Have fun. Enjoy 2020 if you can.